Chargers fans, this is probably the episode I am most excited about to bring to you to date. In this episode, I'm going to talk about my day at Chargers training camp, what I saw, who I talked to, some of the interactions I had with some of the players. I'm bringing everything to you in this episode. But before I get started, be sure to like and subscribe to the Electric Edge on YouTube. Follow me on X at Electric Edge Pod. And also, make sure to leave me comments. I read all my comments. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you're thinking. Give me your updates on the Chargers. Anything that comes to mind about the Bolts, let me know. So, without further ado, let's get into this episode. So I've been a Charger season ticket holder since last year. I typically, for home games, I fly out to LAX, I'll rent a car, go to SoFi, go to the game, then come back home later that night. So I did the same thing this time going to training camp. I'd woken up around 4 a.m., got to the airport, hopped on the flight to LAX, got in around 7:45-ish, grabbed a rental car, and stopped for breakfast, and then made my way to camp. What's really cool is that if you've never been to the Bolt yet, the Bolt is probably about 10 minutes away from LAX. So it's a super easy drive. You get off a plane, and let's say you're going to Uber there. It's only about 10, 15 minutes away. It's literally a straight, there's one road that takes you there, and then you hook a left and you're there. So very convenient if you're coming in from different parts of California or even the country and you want to go to training camp. It's very convenient to get to. So once you get to the Bolt, the Chargers had put out an email that if you're attending training camp, they would shuttle you from a parking deck. I believe it's on Nash Street, and they would take you to where you line up to get into training camp. I decided I didn't want to pay for parking. Parking's $10 to park on that deck, plus you get the shuttle that takes you there and back. So around the corner from the Bolt, there's a shopping center that has a Dick's in it. It has a Whole Foods and a couple other stores. So I'd gone there in the morning because I wanted to see what Chargers gear they had at Dick's. For being so close to the Bolt, they had basically nothing. There's a lot more Rams stuff there, UCLA, USC, and then a ton of Dodger stuff. So I decided, let me just park here and I'll walk up to the Bolt because it was about a 10-minute walk from that parking lot up to where you lined up for training camp. So I just parked in the back area, stayed away. They have a cop there, which there's no cop in the car. And they had some security cameras. So I think they're trying to deter people from not parking in the parking lot. But it was a Thursday morning. This was also a season ticket holder exclusive training camp. So there wasn't a lot of people at training camp. So I kind of just hid in the back and I had no issues parking there. But be advised, you're taking a little bit of a chance if you want to park there if you're going to training camp. So I would follow the Chargers instructions of parking in the parking deck. And then they bring a coach bus that you hop on, and they'll drop you right off in front of the gate. So I made my way to the Bolt around 10:15-ish. I probably got in line around 10:30. Gates didn't open until 12 yesterday, so I hung out outside for about an hour and a half, talked to a bunch of different Chargers fans. I met a Chargers season ticket holder named Poppy. He had given me a Boltman signed shirt, which was pretty cool. I signed the Chargers flag he had that he wanted to get all different Chargers fans to sign. So we had talked for a little bit. I met a couple other season ticket holders. One of them was named Omar. The other one was named Jesus. So we had stood by each other throughout training camp because we wanted to get some things signed. And then I had seen a season ticket holder that I met last year, Karen. So I got to see her again, and we had talked and caught up a little bit from the last time I saw her, which was probably the Bengals game on Sunday night last year. So it's been a little bit. But it was cool to see, meet some new Chargers fans, new season ticket holders, and then see some old faces that I met last year during my time when I went to SoFi. What's really cool is that the Chargers community seems to be very close-knit, especially on Chargers Twitter. There's a lot of accounts that follow each other and, meet each other at games. I'm really looking forward to finally being able to connect with this community. It was always tough because I lived on the East Coast. So you're 2,500 miles away from the actual fan base. But it's been a great experience meeting new people, talking to other Chargers fans, because I remember being back home not having anyone to talk Chargers football with. It's pretty cool for me to meet some fans that are like-minded and watch Chargers football and know what's going on and have to deal with the ups and downs of being a Chargers fan. So we got into training camp around 12. That's when they opened the gates. So that was an hour before training camp actually started. I think yesterday training camp started at 12:57. I had checked my phone, and that's when they started to warm up together as a team. But as far as players starting to work out, the first ones kind of out I saw were Taylor Heineke. I saw Herbert jogging across the field to the far left practice field. Quentin Johnson was out there pretty early. Tyler Conklin was out there. The Bolt is beautiful. I hope that the Chargers put out tickets once again to tour it. The facility just looks state of the art. They did a really good job. And it was a very intimate area where they had the stands for fans, plus there's 2 grass areas on each side. When you walk into the left, the grass area is for kids only. So they have a youth section so kids can get autographs. And then to the right of the bleachers, they have just a general grass area you can stand and hopefully get some autographs. And then next to that, they have the 1960 Club, which from what I heard talking to other Chargers fans, it's about $1,000 just to have a membership to get in there for training camp. Plus, you have to buy food and drinks once you're there. So a little bit out of my price range. And then also, when you walk in all the way to the far left where the left practice field is, they have the Chargers team store. Plus, they had some like old practice stuff, old jerseys, old helmets you can buy that I think got donated to some Chargers foundation that they were sponsoring. So if you want to get some cool old practice jerseys, they had, a Joey Bosa game jersey, a Mike Williams game jersey, Hunter Henry game jersey. They had a few of them there. There's a Chargers team store right outside the Bolt. There's a little shopping center where there's a Cane's. So I went there beforehand, got a couple hats. I need a new lanyard for my keys. I need a new car decal since I got a new car. So got a few things there, but didn't buy anything in training camp. So like I said, practice started around 12:57. A little beforehand, the quarterback started to work out. So they were on, like I said, the left practice field. They were doing their warm-ups. Once practice actually started, the team did warm-up drills in the center field all together. So they had 2 lines and they were doing their warm-up drills. And then once that finished, they broke out into position-related drills. So where I was standing, the defense was right in front of me. So the secondary was in front of me. And then in the back part of that field, you had the linebackers and defensive line. But I was up close right to where all the cornerbacks were practicing. So with that being said, the corners in front of me, the first one to go in their drills was Ja'Sir Taylor. And Minter had talked about him in his press conference yesterday that he's seen the most improvement from last year over him. So I'm hoping that, him taking the initiative of being the first one out, plus all the development he's had, really elevates him this year in that secondary. Because last year, he had some rough stretches of play. But hopefully, being another year under Minter, growing, developing, and having some confidence playing well will really elevate him going into this season. Okay, in the middle of the field, they had punt returners working. So I'd seen Darius Davis out there, McConkey was out there, Kamani Vidal. A few others were taking punt returns from the jug machine. So they had worked on a little bit special teams there. The secondary, once they finished their cone drills, they started working on some fumble drills. When they had 2 corners come in and try to knock the ball away. They worked on that for a little bit. And like I said, the defensive linemen and linebackers were in the back part of that field doing their specialty drills. The running backs were working in the middle field. They were doing kind of just running drills, hitting pads. But Marion Hampton, what a unit he is. He is just so much bigger than all the other running backs they have. He almost looks like a linebacker with that group. I think he's going to have a really special rookie season, but the dude is just massive. So if you see him on TV, that doesn't do it justice. You see him in person, the dude's a unit. As the running backs were working out, Naji Harris walked by. So this is the first sighting of Naji Harris anyone has seen since the news came out about his fireworks. And I had tweeted this out on X. So he's walking by. He has a hoodie on. He has a pair of, I think, like Oakley sunglasses to cover part of his lower face. And the fan I was standing next to was like, "Hey, Naji, how you doing? Is everything good?" And either he had headphones in or his music was on, but he didn't acknowledge anyone. He was walking, head down, hood on, didn't want anyone to see what had happened to his eye. And he was with the running back group, and I think a few other reporters had tweeted out pictures of him. You can't see what's going on with his eye, so it must be a little bit worse than what's been let on. but we won't know unless someone actually sees him. So that was interesting to actually see him be at practice yesterday. Also, Cameron Dicker, J.K. Scott, and Josh Harris were working in front of us for a little bit. They were working on kicks, punts. So they had their own special teams type practice going on as well. So once they had finished all of their position drills, then the team had moved over to the left-hand side of the fields. So that field by where the team store is, and went through their team practice. So for where I was standing, it was pretty tough to see what was going on. They don't have any jumbotrons or anything there. They have a small screen on that back left field, but you couldn't see it from where I was. It just looks very small. They had worked out on that field for quite some time, going through different plays and cycling through different quarterbacks. And from what I had read with some of the practice reports, that the defense did very well yesterday in practice. From what I did see, I saw Herbert threw a couple balls that looked good. Not sure if I saw Trey Lance throw. I saw DJ Ali, I think, throw a pick or two, but don't quote me on that because, like I said, my vantage point was pretty far away. And then also we were, us fans were just talking to one another. But some of us were talking to Fernando Pinto, who was standing in front of us. If you don't know who Fernando Pinto is, he works with this Chargers Spanish play-by-play announcement group. That's him and Adrian. He was talking to us for probably about 45 minutes. He had some outlooks on different things, but he initially asked the fans, like, what do you think your outlook is for the season? So I said, the Chargers are going to be 13-4. And he thought about it for a bit. He's like, well, who are the losses to? And I mentioned, I think, Washington, the Eagles, and they split between the Chiefs and Broncos. So he said to me, he said, I have them down for 12 wins. So I'll take 12 wins all day long. 13 is very optimistic because, like I said, I think 13 wins the division, but I'll take 12 wins all day long. That gets him in the playoffs. Another fan asked him about Omarion Hampton, if he would get 1,500 total yards this year. And he made the comparison to Saquon. About Saquon had 2,000 yards and how that offensive line operated. So he stewed on that question for a little bit and got back to him. And finally he said, I think Omarion Hampton does get 1,500 yards. So that's super promising for the Chargers. I don't know the last time we've had a running back to get 1,500 total yards in a season. Probably, I think Eckler may have been, but he wasn't a true power running back like Hampton is. So that would be cool to see if he actually can eclipse that mark in his first year with the Chargers and first year in the league. We also talked about Harbaugh and what he brings to the Chargers. He mentioned that things in the building just feel different this year. Like there's an expectation of winning and being a winning franchise. He said Harbaugh has also set a standard across the organization of how the team operates, which is a breath of fresh air to Chargers fans considering who's been in that leadership position between Staley, Anthony Lynn, Mike McCoy, and the list goes on. Right? He also said that Harbaugh is full of energy. So the clips you see on social media and the memes, all that stuff is legit. He said the dude's just full of energy, and he brings that into the building day to day. The Chargers got what they paid for in Harbaugh, and like I said, I think this year, his second year at the helm, the Chargers are really going to elevate to one of those top teams in the AFC. We talked a little bit about Herbert too. He said that this is a big year for Herbert and that this is the best team that they've put Herbert in since he's been in the league, which is also a great thing to hear considering some of the pieces they've put around him in the past and the situations they've put him in where offensive line's been shaky and he's gotten hurt or their secondary was terrible, the run defense. He said as an overall outlook that this year is the best team that Herbert's had since he's been in the league. So that's very encouraging for Chargers fans. He also said that Herbert's extremely intelligent and that the only thing that's changed about Herbert since he's come into the league is his bank account. So that just tells you the kind of character Herbert has and that he's a different type of leader than, let's say, like a Khalil Mack or Derwin James. But he leads in his own way and players respect that. I also asked him about the Brazil game and how the players felt about going to Brazil. And he said to them, it's just another business trip. That they're more anxious to get on the field and start playing than actually playing in Brazil and all the pomp and circumstance that goes along with it. I don't know about you, but if I was a player and I had to fly, I don't even know how long it is. Probably like a 10-hour flight to go play football. I'd be a little jaded, but I can understand that. It's week 1, you're in prime time, you're playing the Chiefs. You haven't beaten the Chiefs in a long time. It's time to get over the hump. So I can see how it's all business for them going into that Brazil game. The fan next to me asked about Mike Williams to him and if he heard anything about why he retired. And he said that Mike just knew that he couldn't do it anymore, that he tried and just his body was not cooperating. I think I mentioned this on other podcasts that I think it's still tied to his knee injury, that he's just not fully recovered. And to be honest, I don't blame him. He's 31. He's made a lot of money in the NFL. Go enjoy life. It's sad to see because I'd love to see Mike Williams suit up again for the Chargers, but as a fan and as someone who's had multiple knee surgeries, I totally get it. After talk about that, we chatted about some other things. I talked about going to the Chargers Raiders game week 2. He mentioned that this practice that we were at was a much longer practice than has been. I think the practice in San Diego on Wednesday was only about 75 minutes, and this was close to 2 hours yesterday at the Chargers practice for. So it'll be interesting to see today's training camp, which is Friday, and Saturday, how long those practices go. Because yesterday, like I said, was a pretty long camp. So once practice ended, we were waiting to see what players came over that were going to sign autographs. So at first we were waiting there, and no player wanted any part of coming over to the fans. They were all just kind of walked to the locker room. But the first player we got to come over, as some guys behind me were screaming, was Keandre Lambert-Smith. So he came over, super nice guy. I told him he's been balling out in practice. He smiled and appreciated it. And I told him that we need to beat the Chiefs this year, and he agreed. He said for sure. So that was cool. He was the first one to come sign autographs for all the fans. Then Josh Harris, who's the long snapper, made his way over from the bleachers over to where we were standing. Another nice guy was talking to fans, asking kids little questions, signed every autograph. Super nice dude. Elijah Molden came over at first, and then Tre Harris as well. So they were kind of simultaneously hand-in-hand come over. I think Tre Harris came over first, and then Elijah Molden followed. Elijah was pretty funny. So the guy that was standing next to me asked him, or told him, stay healthy this year. Elijah asked him, he said, do you know the injury in the NFL? And the guy's like, no. He's like, 100%. So that was pretty funny. We all got a laugh out of it, but they both signed. They all went down the line and signed autographs. So before the next trio of players came over, in the middle field, Alohi Gilman and Derwin James were racing a few kids, and the Chargers had put this out on their Instagram story. I don't know who the kids were associated with, but they were racing down the field, and it looked like Alohi smoked them. And we asked him about it when he came over. He's like, no mercy. So that's pretty funny. But Derwin James came over. I think it was Alohi Gilman first came over. Some fans next to me had Alohi crew signs, so he came over and signed them. He was talking to all of us. Super nice guy. And then Derwin James started signing in the bleacher area and then made his way over to where we were standing in the grass area. Like I said, Derwin signed every autograph he could, was talking to fans. He took a selfie with me, which I thought was really cool. But to see Derwin James up close, I mean, the dude is a unit. Like, he is chiseled beyond belief. I can see why Josh Allen is afraid of Derwin James hitting him. The dude is just absolutely massive. But he was super cool. And then Cameron Dicker was also signing autographs, and he came over. He took a selfie with me as well. I think someone had their baby with them and gave him to Dicker to take a picture because they had a picture, I think, from the year prior. So that was pretty funny to see. And the kid starts crying once Cameron Dicker has him in his arms, so that was pretty cool. From what I had seen, Quentin Johnson and Herbert were signing autographs, but they were towards the bolt. There were some other kids on the field. I'm not sure what they were a part of. Herbert was signing for little kids over there, and then I know Quentin Johnson was in the corner signing autographs. Once Dicker and James came over to sign autographs, that was pretty much the end of all the players being out there. Khalil Mack was on the field, but he was running around with his kids and talking to some other fans. He doesn't really sign too many autographs. But that was pretty much the extent of practice. And then once those two left, I decided I needed to head back, drop off my rental, and get back to the airport. But my experience there was awesome. I wish I could do it more often. I definitely will be going back next year. I don't think I'll have another opportunity this year to go to training camp. But hands down, it's something I've wanted to do for years and just could never make it happen, whether it be logistically or having other plans, being on vacation. It just never worked out. But I'm so glad I got to go yesterday. I'm so glad I got to meet the players I did. I'm so glad I got to meet other Chargers fans and just talk Chargers football for 2 hours because that's what I love to do. So I hope that this was a great recap of my experience at training camp. I will post some other clips as well on YouTube of just players doing drills and stuff so you can take a look at. But be sure to like and subscribe to the Electric Edge podcast. Leave me a comment below. Let me know if you've gone to training camp. If you have, let me know your experience. We'll love to hear from anyone who watched the show. Also, follow me on X at Electric Edge Pod. And as always, bolt up and go Chargers.